This is Mrs. Glarger.
And this is Mr. Podeweltz.
We're here to bring you the 7th season of Ikidapod.
Ikidapod is a student-produced podcast that follows the Iditarod sled dog race each year on the way to Nome. This year is the 50th annual race that begins tomorrow, Saturday, March 5th.
You may have noticed that there are some new voices this year, but we are proud to carry on the Ikidapod tradition. Joining us today are Miss Thompson and Mrs. Treptow to tell us more about Ikidapod and its origins.
Hi!
Hello!
So, Miss Thompson, where did you get this idea of following the Iditarod?
I don't remember how long we've been doing this, or how long it's been going on, but I feel like at the beginning it was like a random, like, hey, we have this readers theater, and we kind of saw it, and then it just kind of snowballed into something bigger. The first time I think we had some like sketched out map on the wall that was a little bit shady, and then Felicity or Mrs. Treptow.
The secret's out.
Mrs. Treptow took it a step further and really dug into the website. And this is even if I'm remembering it completely correctly, because it's probably been close to 10 years that we've been doing something like this. So, and then we started making official maps, and the kids started following stuff. And so we figured out that the Iditarod has a ton of curriculum attached things, so we just kept going.
That's awesome.
Mrs. Treptow, how do you make podcast production doable for kids?
Awesome. Great question. Yeah, so I, like Miss Thompson had explained, was, kind of doing some things with the Iditarod, dabbling in it. I always did winter adventure books, and one of those books was Wood Song, which, of course, is the account of Gary Paulson's first ever Iditarod run. And so I was looking to breathe some new engagement into the unit, right? I was just looking for something new, and I myself had just started listening to podcasts, and so I thought, well, why not, take a huge risk and try this with kids? I might fall flat on my face, but it also might be a really cool thing. And so I started looking into it, and I went to a training with an Apple professional learning specialist that had come to our district. And he basically just kind of explained how to use GarageBand to create a podcast. And since we are a one-to-one iPad district, our students had all of the tools possible to do it. So I was like, okay, let's do this. And so what I did is I really kind of closely tied it into my ELA time, my reading, writing, language kind of block, and I separated my class into 5 separate teams because we were putting out an episode a day. And so we had our Monday team, our Tuesday team, Wednesday team, and so on. What my students didn't realize is that those teams were created off of different reading skills that I was working on with my students. And so when they weren't producing or researching or editing their podcast, they were sitting on the carpet with me working on very, tangible reading skills, whether it's summarizing or main idea or something like that. And, to be honest, when we say that this is kid produced, it was 100% kid produced. The kids do all of the music in GarageBand. They do all of the researching, the editing of their articles. They are the ones who kind of put it all together, and we have the simple job of just publishing it. So it is a very doable project for kids, and I hope, can I say a little bit more? Is it okay? So like I said, I did it just to kind of breathe some engagement into the unit, but I didn't anticipate all of the other positivity that would come from this experience. Not only did my kids become way more engaged, I had students who had never turned in an assignment were now suddenly showing up early to school so that they could finish researching or finish producing a podcast. But I also had kids that I saw their reading skills advance. I saw their speaking and listening and researching. And more than that, their confidence. Sitting on a microphone is, even though we can't see the audience, they're there, and that can be a little bit intimidating. And I can remember one of my little rascals of a boy was in the back of the room, and they were just trying to get that podcast up and published before the end of the day, and his group was being a little bit goofy, and he just threw his fist down and he said, "You guys, you don't get it. My mom listens to this." And it was like just the fact that his mom was in the audience was enough, and that just reminds me of how important it is to provide our students with real world learning. What they didn't realize, though, is that we had subscribers all over the globe. The mushers themselves were listening to the episodes. We had Allie Zirkle, who now unfortunately has retired, but she sent my class a postcard after hearing one of the episodes.
Still hopeful that we're going to have like a sneak attack by her and she just comes back.
Great, yeah. And my kids got interviewed on Alaska Public Media. I mean, it kind of exploded into such an awesome experience. And so even though, and these teachers probably won't tell you this, but you work hard to make this happen in your classroom. It's a lot of work up front to get it all together, but it's worth every amount of that work because of all the positive things that come out of it. So I could just go on and on and on and on.
It's been really amazing to jump onto this project because when Mrs. Treptow and Miss Thompson were teaching 4th grade with me, it took me a few years to jump on board, I guess I would say. And so at first I was like, no, that's okay. I'll just keep going with my regular curriculum. And finally I'm like, okay, we'll do it this year. So we made musher trading cards and handed out the Iditarod sheets, and that was kind of the end of our involvement. And now I can see how much the kids love it and how much they get out of the research and all of the skills that trying to find the dog names of the mushers when you have to go to the website and the website's blocked and where are you going to find it? So it's been really a great process to be a part of.
And I appreciate Mr. Podeweltz kind of helping me since this is my first year as a 4th grade teacher. So we get to kind of do it together, and I get to learn all of this as we try to find time and teach Iditarod and teach everything else we have to teach. So I appreciate kind of the whole team.
Yeah.
You guys all helping with GarageBand.
Yeah.
It's
For
a
sure.
passing of the torch.
This has been quite the progression of Mrs. Treptow as a 4th grade GT teacher to she left for technology and I moved into the role of doing ikidapod, and then I left the 4th grade classroom and now Mrs.
For
Gogger's-
technology.
For technology. And now Mrs. Gogger's there. So that's the
Essentially,
passing
this
of the torch.
podcast is a path to technology.
Yeah. And it's so much more, and going back to what Mr. Podeweltz said of, his kids, I think even the 3rd graders look forward to doing it because we do the map in the hallway, and so it's so much bigger than just the podcast, but the podcast definitely is the icing on the cake, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say
Me too.
after on how much, it's one thing to, like, say you're going to do it, but then at the end when you're like, holy cow, this is huge, just to hear at the end, so.
And
I'm
just
excited.
a little side note, my mom has been asking nonstop, so is the podcast happening this year? So is the podcast happening this year? It's like, I don't know. And so my mom is going to be thrilled to know that it's happening. So you're for sure going to have one very, very committed listener.
That's good.
No pressure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us again on the 7th season of ikidapod. We look forward to the kids bringing you race updates every day next week, and so we can follow along and see what happens on this 50th Iditarod race.
Woo!